any economic crisis. Remittances to low and middle income countries are projected to fall by 19.7% to $445 billion, representing a loss of crucial financing lifeline for many vulnerable households. Remittances flows are expected to fall across all World Bank Group regions. With the decline, remittances flows are expected to become even more important as sources of external financing for low and middle income countries, as the fall in foreign direct investment is expected to be more than 35% over 2019. As manufacturers in the pharmaceutical industry await stimulus package from the federal government, industry players advocate sustainability and research into a possible cure for COVID-19. Benny Adams reports.
Okay, thank you, Amina. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in its move to alleviate the challenges faced by players in the private sector, opened loans to the pharmaceutical industry in order to help expand or establish drug manufacturing plants in country. Apart from the 50 billion, the CBN also announced a 1.1 trillion stimulus package that would include loans to support the manufacturing sector to enable players recover from the impact of the COVID-19. The question on the lips of industry watchers is, will the intervention spur more innovations in the pharmaceutical industry, and will it also increase sales? I have with me Mr. Andrew. He is a pharmacist, and in this particular pharmacy, we have products that are already being manufactured and are on sale by the would-be benefactors of this said funds. Mr. Andrew, if all of this money comes into production of pharmaceutical products, will it help your business?
It will help the pharmacy business. It will help the pharmacy practice. It will help the industry. The problem right now, I think, would be how long will it be sustained in terms of the funds coming into the industrial, to the manufacturing sector, and how consistent are they going to be? One more thing you also have to look at is the buyer's choice, the client's choice. And I know from my own experience, they tend more to go for foreign products than locally manufactured products. Not just in the pharmacy sector alone, in other parts of the industries. When you talk about the rice industry, for example, even the movie industry, for example, citizens, they do prefer and they trust the foreign products compared to locally manufactured products. And I think it's all about quality assurance, quality control in terms of them, and the old Nigerian mentality.
Well, the fears of pharmacists, Andrew here, cannot be displaced with a wave of the hand. As he said, Nigerians have a penchant for foreign-made goods. With these funds, it is expected that PPEs and hand sanitizers should be produced locally to meet the high demand, and also research into possible cure of COVID-19 be launched, which is to say, industry players need to show capacity to provide solutions to global health problems, as the country records 782 cases of COVID-19 with 25 deaths. Research predicts the value of the Nigerian pharmaceutical market could rise by as much as 9% a year over next 10 years to reach 3.6 billion by 2026. Amina, it's over to you for the continuation of Business Express.
Thank you, Benny. And as the world battles to treat coronavirus as well as find a permanent solution to the ravaging pandemic, our focus on the program today is on financing Nigeria's pharmaceutical industry. Our guest, Dr. Obi Peter Adigwe, the Director General, National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Glad to have you on the program today.
It's good to be here.
All right. With the recent developments related to COVID-19, from difficulties in personal protective equipment to even local manufacturers complaining about raw materials coming into the country, how What factors would you attribute to be responsible for this?
Well, the first factor is the world's inordinate dependence on China and a few other Asian countries as the world's manufacturers for a lot of these issues. For years now, we had argued, using the medicine security concept, that there needs to be a decentralization of manufacturing. And this is exactly one of the reasons that we've been arguing that. For Nigeria, we had said that Nigeria possesses the natural ability to emerge as a leader, as a hub for pharmaceutical manufacturing to serve the whole of Africa. Thankfully, if any good thing is going to come out of COVID-19, it will be that this argument we've been putting forward for years now is now very clear to everybody.
You mentioned something about medicine security. What do you mean by that?
So medicine security is a concept that we came up with a few years ago, which argues that unless a people are able to determine how their medicines are produced and distributed, they will not be able to guarantee a sustainable supply of these medicines in order to ensure affordable healthcare, high quality access to healthcare for their people. Based on that, the argument was that there is a need to encourage local manufacturing. If you do that, you are assuring that you can manufacture for your people. If you do that, you'll be assuring that you can use that industry to provide jobs for your people, create knowledge, improve on capacity building. These are all different components that add to you being able to serve your people health-wise when there is an emergency like this.
Talking about an emergency like this, what would you say the implications for the sector would be as regards meeting local production at a time like this?
So the pharmaceutical sector, to be honest, has responded pretty well to coronavirus. However, their response has been limited by the scenario they found themselves in.
Okay.
As we speak, a minimum of 300 billion naira is needed to be injected into the pharmaceutical sector to enable the pharmaceutical sector emerge as the hub of pharma manufacturing
What about
for Africa.
the interventions by the Central Bank of Nigeria to the pharmaceutical sector, specifically during this period?
It's a start, but it's not enough. I'll tell you why. The central bank's intervention has, been put out, and I've seen a number of documents talking about how it will be implemented. I find that there's an inordinate focus on the financial aspect, neglecting the socio-economic aspect, neglecting the technical aspects of how these funds will stimulate responses for the relevant response for coronavirus, but also on a big picture note, ensure that our pharmaceutical industry emerges as a world-class pharmaceutical industry. The African market is worth 50 billion. This is around coronavirus. I can bet you that post-coronavirus, when it hits everybody, that regional centers are emerging, the size of the African market will also increase. And it's only those people that have used a holistic approach to upgrade their pharmaceutical industries that will be able to play in that African market.
I need to take you back a little bit. You said the stimulus package by the central bank, it's not enough. What is enough, if you had to put a figure to it?
So when I say it's not enough, it's both in quantity and in quality. Quantity-wise, a guesstimate will be somewhere around 300 billion naira. That's what's needed. For you to bring up a world-class pharmaceutical manufacturing company, you need somewhere between 10 and 20 billion. You need about 10 of those in the Nigerian space. You need to invest money in APIs, you need to invest money in excipients, you need to invest money in the entire value chain. The pharmaceutical sector is one of the sectors that is acknowledged to have the longest value chain. So if you're putting in money in the pharmaceutical sector, there are a lot of other people that are making money as well, from the farmers who manufacture phytomedicines to the people who do the packaging industry, the APIs, the excipients, like I said before, even other guys who now come in for distribution and all that. So that's the entire value chain. So there needs to be a holistic view, a big picture view, and that's not what the CBN is doing quite well right now, and that's the weakness in terms of quality.
Okay, so far we've been looking at what applies within the Nigerian context, your efforts, the interventions of CBN, and a whole lot of other incentives. Now, looking beyond Nigeria to the wider world, Africa, from the short and medium term, what do you expect to happen to properly deal with the situation at hand?
So first of all, the world hasn't paid enough attention on healthcare, and the world hasn't paid enough attention to research and development. Post-coronavirus, people are going to people who should know better will begin to take those two sectors seriously. Because, like it or not, I've said this severally, coronavirus will not be the world's last pandemic. And it is whoever that is properly prepared that will be able to save lives. America, in 1 week, lost 20,000 people to coronavirus. 20,000 people. Let me put it in context. Boko Haram has been ravaging us for a decade. Boko Haram in 10 years hasn't killed as many people as coronavirus killed in America in 1 week. So people need to start to reorient their thinking, reorient their priority scales. Healthcare and R&D comes before anything. Incidentally, just like we've been arguing before now, if you do it properly, while you're addressing the healthcare needs of your people, you can also use the same resources to address socio-economic weaknesses in your economy.
Well, as developments unfold, we will definitely keep a close eye on things, and we will reach out to you for updates on what's going on. So far, we have been talking to Dr. Obi Peter Adigwe. He is the Director General of the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Thank you so much for your insight.
It was my pleasure.
You are watching Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. The program will continue shortly.
Let me assure Nigerians that all COVID-19 intervention funds are safe in the Treasury single account, and the government is still open to donations in this regard. Government has opened special accounts with 5 commercial banks which are directly linked to the Treasury single account. Donated funds are safe in the Central Bank of Nigeria. For verifiable information about the funds and other financial obligations of the federal government, please contact us directly at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning.
The Consumer Price Index CPI increased by 12.26% year-on-year in March 2020. This is 0.06 percentage points higher than the rate recorded in February 2020. The figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics Tuesday shows that on a month-on-month basis, the headline index increased by 0.84% in March 2020, which is a 0.05% higher than the 0.79% recorded in February of 2020. The urban inflation rate increased by 12.93% year-on-year in March 2020 from 12.85% recorded in February 2020, while the rural inflation rate increased by 11.64% in March 2020 from 11.61% in February. business experts will also be discussing the inflation figures as they relate to COVID-19. We have an economist, Tunde Bakare Aremu, to talk to us on the telephone. Hello, Dr. Bakare. Are you there?
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon.
Now, looking at the recent numbers, what are your thoughts?
Well, given the increment in inflation from February to that of March, the increment in the figure of inflation might not necessarily be to the immediate event, but what we call inflation expectation. You know, the COVID-19 we are talking about started in 2019, but the global spread of it was not known until around late January, early February. So many people must have gotten this information, and then before the lockdown law in Nigeria, there is expectation that with this problem that is global, that is moving from one country to the other, the expectation in every mind of the people globally is that, more especially in Nigeria, is that it will soon come to Nigeria, and then with that, inflation expectation may make people to rush them. That is panic buying, and panic buying will lead to inflation, and that is what we saw in February to March. That increase in February to March inflation, it was highly due to the panic buying, which is inflation expectation.
Okay, now some experts do agree with you that the numbers are a bit unexpected. If you throw in the factor of say reduction in the price of petrol, the exchange rate, and the various palliative measures by government, do you see the next set of numbers being a bit more drastic than the current one?
Well, it is possible. Normatively, it is possible, because if you look at the events, the showdown of events, there is possibility for a decrease. But when we calculate, when inflation rate is being calculated, it is the active buying in the economy that are put into consideration. So right away, because of a low supply, because of a low supply in the economy, the few commodities that are being demanded in the economy, where there are economic activities, the price goes up, because one wouldn't know when another one will be supplied. So those that have those goods now, they sell at higher prices. Even recharge cards now in some area, they have put some money on it. That is to show that when there is a stoppage in supply, there are opportunities for people to change, to increase the price of goods and services, and the inflation calculation will only be based on active economic activities that actually took place during the month that is under consideration.
So you're saying now, despite the demand in goods and services, do you see this playing an impact in April, at the end of this month?
Well, there is high possibility for a reduction in inflation, most especially at the end of the month. The reason is that there is a very few active economic activities, and when there is a low demand, and when there is low economic activities, there will be low income, and when there is low income, there will be low demand. Low demand or deficient demand will definitely bring about a reduction in the price of goods and services. Because what could bring about increase the price of goods and services is when there is a high demand for commodity. But in a situation in which people are locked down, you are not earning income. Most especially those in the informal sector.
Okay.
When you are asked to move out, then you have little or nothing to spend, and therefore the demand will be very low.
Okay.
Very low.
Doctor-
When there is no demand, supply will. Hello.
Dr. Bakare, this is about the much we can take on this discussion, but we do thank you for your time and for joining us on the program today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. For 2 straight days, the West Texas Intermediate crude oil prices remained below zero for the first time ever. The May contract with WTI, which expired Tuesday, plunged below zero but clawed its way back into positive territory in early trade on Wednesday. International benchmark crude traded at $17.41 per barrel on Wednesday morning, down more than 10% since the world went into a COVID-19-induced lockdown. Demand for crude oil fell drastically. Crude oil derives its value when it's refined and sold. However, with movement restricted and most factories shut down, there is little or no demand for refined crude oil. And on that note, let's see how oil and other commodities are faring this Wednesday on the global markets. European markets advance defying coronavirus and oil fears. Bosede Abel has a summary of stock market activities.
Global stocks suffered significant declines Tuesday as the technology sector led the market lower and the oil rout continued. In early trading of 22nd April, U.S. stock futures indicated decline at the open following recent weakness in markets intensified by oil's massive decline. Dow futures implied a decline of about 631.56 points at the open. Futures on the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite also were negative. Stocks in Asia closed mixed as oil prices continues to see weakness. Shanghai Composite up 0.6% to 2,843.98. Hang Seng Index was 0.42% higher as of its final hour of trading, while Nikkei fell 0.74% to close at 19,137.95. European market traded in positive territory, apparently defying widespread concerns over the coronavirus outbreak and a slump in oil prices. Most African stocks made positive stride as investors continue to monitor coronavirus pandemic. Nairobi's all-share, Tunisia's Tunidex, South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Namibia's overall index were green, while Ghana's GSE Composite was marginal.
Thank you, Bosede. Now, back home in Nigeria, stocks rallied Tuesday at the Nigerian Stock Exchange a day after the data showed marginal increase. The all-share index advanced 0.66% to end at 22,780.3 points. Market capitalization also inched up to 11.872 trillion naira. Volume of trade stood at 186 million, valued at 1.872 billion naira in 3,446 deals. Zenith Bank, FBN Holdings and GT led the activity chart. The US dollar hit a record high against the Nigerian naira on Tuesday after a historical oil price rout pushed US crude futures below zero. The naira stood at 498.5 to the dollar, up from Monday's close of 492.4. We have just enough time to see how the naira is faring alongside other major currencies today. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. You can communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget the hashtag BizX. Remember to always wash your hands or use a sanitizer. Join us again on Friday.
Of great people, different tribes and languages, yet we are united in our diversity. All over the world, Nigerians are known to be very hardworking and resilient people. In our history as a nation, there have been many storms, but just like the eagle, we always soar very high above the storms. Together as a nation, we stood against Ebola virus disease in 2014. And we conquered. Together as a nation, we shall stand against COVID-19, and we shall surely triumph.